What if everything you learned in school about human history was incomplete? What if, buried beneath our feet, hidden under oceans and locked inside ancient stones, there are secrets of a civilization so advanced that it makes our modern technology look primitive? Today we are diving deep into one of the greatest mysteries in all of human history, the possibility that a lost civilization once existed on this planet, thousands of years before we think civilization even began, and that they were, in many ways, far more advanced than we are today. Stay with me, because what you are about to hear will completely change the way you see the ancient world. Let us start with what we think we know. According to conventional history, human civilization began roughly 5,000 to 6,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq, with the Sumerians. Then came the ancient Egyptians, the Indus Valley Civilization, ancient China, and eventually Greece and Rome. That is the story we have all been taught. But here is where things get interesting. For decades, archaeologists, geologists, and independent researchers have been uncovering evidence that simply does not fit this timeline. Evidence of massive construction, sophisticated astronomy, advanced mathematics, and complex societal organization that predates the so-called dawn of civilization by thousands, sometimes tens of thousands, of years. Think about this for a moment. The Great Sphinx of Giza, one of the most iconic structures in the world, shows clear signs of water erosion on its body. Not wind erosion, not sand erosion, but water erosion caused by heavy rainfall. The problem? Egypt has been a desert for the last 7,000 to 10,000 years. The last time heavy rainfall was common in that region was during what scientists call the African humid period, which ended around 5000 BCE. But conventional Egyptology says the Sphinx was built around 2500 BCE, a full 2,500 years after that rainfall would have stopped. So either the erosion patterns are wrong or the dating is wrong. And geological experts who have examined the Sphinx say the erosion is absolutely real. This single anomaly opens a door to a much bigger question. What if the Sphinx is far older than we think? And if it is, who built it? In 1994, a Kurdish shepherd wandering the hills of southeastern Turkey noticed something strange sticking out of the ground. What he found would go on to become the most important archaeological discovery of the 20th century. He had stumbled upon Göbekli Tepe, a massive, complex temple site that, when excavated, turned out to be approximately 12,000 years old. 12,000 years old. Let that sink in. That is 7,000 years older than Stonehenge, 6,000 years older than the pyramids of Giza, and predates the invention of writing, the wheel, agriculture, and every other marker of what we call civilization. At Göbekli Tepe, archaeologists found massive T-shaped stone pillars, some weighing up to 20 tons, arranged in perfect circles. The pillars are covered with intricate carvings of animals, foxes, snakes, birds, scorpions, all executed with remarkable artistic precision. There are also abstract symbols that some researchers believe could be early forms of writing or star maps. Here is what makes this discovery so revolutionary. According to everything we thought we knew, the people who built Göbekli Tepe should have been hunter-gatherers, simple nomadic people focused entirely on survival, with no time or capability for large-scale construction projects. And yet, here is undeniable proof that 12,000 years ago, someone organized a massive workforce, quarried and transported enormous stones, and built a sophisticated ceremonial complex. The lead archaeologist at Göbekli Tepe, the late Klaus Schmidt, famously said that the site did not fit any known model of early human development. He spent decades excavating only a small fraction of the site, and estimates suggest that what has been uncovered so far is less than 5% of the total structure buried underground. But here is the part that truly blows the mind. Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried. Sometime around 10,000 years ago, whoever built this site intentionally covered it with hundreds of thousands of tons of rubble. They buried their own creation. Why would anyone do that? The most compelling explanation is that they were trying to preserve it, protecting it from something catastrophic that was coming. And that brings us to one of the most dramatic events in Earth's geological history. Around 12,900 years ago, the Earth was struck by one of the most catastrophic events in the last 100,000 years. Scientists call it the Younger Dryas Impact Event. In a geological instant, the planet was transformed. Temperatures in parts of the northern hemisphere dropped by as much as 15 degrees Celsius within just a few decades. Massive glacial floods swept across continents. Sea levels around the world rose dramatically as ice sheets collapsed. Entire ecosystems were wiped out. Dozens of large animal species went extinct practically overnight in geological terms. Mammoths, mastodons, giant sloths, saber-toothed cats. The evidence for this catastrophe is written into the geological record in a layer called the Younger Dryas Boundary, or YDB layer. This thin but distinctive layer, found all around the world at sites dating to the same period, contains nanodiamonds, shocked quartz, cosmic spherules, and high concentrations of iridium and platinum, materials that can only be produced by an extraterrestrial impact or a catastrophic airburst event. In 2018, a landmark study published in the journal Science Advances confirmed that a comet or asteroid fragmented over the Greenland ice sheet approximately 12,800 years ago. The resulting fires, floods, and global cooling caused one of the greatest extinction events in recent Earth history. Scientists who have studied this event believe it was far more destructive than the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, in terms of its immediate impact on the species alive at the time. Now here is where this connects to our lost civilization. The Younger Dryas catastrophe occurred at almost exactly the same time that Göbekli Tepe was built and then buried. It also corresponds with the flooding of the Black Sea, the submersion of vast coastal landmasses that were once dry land and, according to many myths and legends from cultures around the world, a great flood that destroyed a previous age of humanity. Almost every ancient culture on Earth has a flood myth. The Sumerians had Utnapishtim, whose story predates the biblical Noah by at least 1,000 years. The ancient Greeks had Deucalion, the Hindus had Manu. The Aztecs described multiple suns, multiple ages of civilization that were destroyed and reborn. The ancient Egyptians spoke of Zep-Tepi, the first time, a golden age when gods walked among men. Could all of these myths be cultural memories of a real catastrophe, one that destroyed an advanced civilization and reset human history? If a civilization existed before the Younger Dryas catastrophe, where would we find them? The answer, surprisingly, might be under the ocean. During the last ice age, sea levels were roughly 120 to 130 meters lower than they are today. This means that vast coastal regions, areas that would have been ideal for human settlement, are now submerged under hundreds of feet of water. Scientists estimate that roughly 27 million square kilometers of land that was once above water is now beneath the sea. That is an area roughly the size of modern North America, and we have barely explored it. What little exploration has been done is producing stunning results. Off the coast of India, in the Gulf of Kambat, sonar scanning in 2001 revealed what appeared to be the outlines of a sunken city. Geometric structures, right angles, and what looked like roads and buildings spread across the ocean floor. Artifacts dredged from the site included worked stone, pottery, and what appeared to be human remains. Radiocarbon dating of some organic material from the site produced a date of approximately 9,500 years ago, which would make it far older than any known civilization in India. Off the coast of Japan, near the island of Yonaguni, a massive underwater rock formation was discovered in 1987 that has divided the scientific community ever since. The Yonaguni Monument, as it is called, features flat terraced surfaces, sharp right-angle corners, perfectly straight edges, and what appear to be carved steps, pillars, and even faces. The structure is enormous, over 50 meters wide and 25 meters tall. Some geologists argue it is entirely natural. Others, including the Japanese professor Masaki Kimura, who spent years diving the site, argue that it shows clear signs of human modification. The monument sits at a depth that was above water during the last ice age. Perhaps most tantalizing of all are the ancient maps. In 1929, a map was discovered in the Imperial Palace in Constantinople, drawn by an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis in 1513. The map shows the coastline of South America and Antarctica with remarkable accuracy, including details of the Antarctic coast that were not known to European explorers at the time. Antarctica was only officially discovered in 1820, and its actual coastline beneath the ice was not accurately mapped until seismic surveys in the 1950s. The Piri Reis map appears to show the subglacial coastline of Antarctica, suggesting it was based on much older source maps drawn when the continent was not covered in ice, which was before approximately 6,000 BCE. Piri Reis himself noted in annotations on the map that he had compiled it from ancient source maps, some of which, he said, dated back to the time of Alexander the Great, or earlier. Where did those ancient maps come from? Who had the navigational capability and the cartographic sophistication to accurately map Antarctica thousands of years before any known civilization had the technology to do so? Let us talk about ancient construction, because this is where the evidence for a lost advanced civilization becomes almost impossible to explain away. Around the world, we find structures built from stone so massive, fitted with such precision, and accomplished with such engineering sophistication that modern architects and engineers openly admit they do not know how it was done. At Pumapunku in Bolivia, there are megalithic stone blocks weighing up to 800 tons, some of the largest stone blocks ever moved by human hands. These stones were quarried from sites over 10 kilometers away and transported to an elevation of nearly 4,000 meters above sea level. But what truly astonishes engineers is the precision of the machining. The stones at Pumapunku feature perfectly straight cuts, precise right angles, complex interlocking joints, and drill holes so uniform that they appear to have been made by modern power tools. They are carved from andesite, one of the hardest stones on Earth. The local people who lived near the site when Spanish conquistadors arrived had no memory of who built it, saying only that it appeared fully formed at the beginning of time. At the Temple of Jupiter in Baalbek, Lebanon, there is a foundation platform that contains 3 stone blocks known as the Trilithon, each weighing approximately 800 tons. Nearby lies the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, a quarried block that weighs an estimated 1,200 tons. It is the single largest cut stone in the ancient world. Modern engineering studies have concluded that no crane that exists today could lift these stones. And yet they were moved, placed, and fitted with precision into a larger structure thousands of years ago. The pyramids of Giza present their own set of impossibilities. The Great Pyramid contains an estimated 2.3 million stone blocks, weighing an average of 2.5 tons each, with some blocks in the interior, weighing up to 80 tons. The pyramid is aligned to true north with an accuracy of just 3/60ths of a degree, more precise than many modern buildings. The base is level to within 2 centimeters, across an area of 13 acres. The 4 sides are oriented to the cardinal directions with extraordinary accuracy, and the overall dimensions of the Great Pyramid encode mathematical constants, including pi and the golden ratio, that ancient Egyptians are not supposed to have known. Inside the Great Pyramid, the king's chamber is built from enormous granite blocks, fitted together so tightly that a sheet of paper cannot be slid between them. The chamber exhibits remarkable acoustic properties. It resonates at a frequency of around 1.5 hertz, which corresponds to the Earth's own electromagnetic resonance. Was this intentional? If so, it suggests a level of knowledge about physics and acoustics that simply should not exist in a supposedly primitive civilization. And it is not just Egypt and South America. In Malta, underground temple complexes were carved from solid limestone with precision that modern archaeologists cannot explain. In Turkey, the underground city of Derinkuyu could house up to 20,000 people with stables, wineries, food storage, ventilation shafts, and deep wells, all carved from rock with a depth of 18 stories underground. In Peru, Sacsayhuaman features stones weighing up to 125 tons, fitted in complex polygonal patterns with no mortar and no gaps that a blade can penetrate. These structures are not primitive. They reflect deep knowledge of geometry, physics, engineering, and material science. One of the most compelling indicators of an advanced lost civilization is the sophistication of ancient astronomical knowledge. Across cultures separated by vast distances and thousands of years, we find an intimate understanding of celestial mechanics that should not have been possible without centuries of meticulous observation and sophisticated mathematics. The Antikythera mechanism is perhaps the most famous example of ancient technological sophistication. Discovered in 1901 in a shipwreck off the Greek island of Antikythera, this bronze device, dating to roughly 150 BCE, is a mechanical computer that could predict astronomical positions, solar and lunar eclipses, and even the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games. When scientists finally managed to fully decode its workings in the 2000s using advanced X-ray technology, they found it contained differential gearing, a mechanical principle that historians of technology had assumed was not invented until the 1600s. The device was so sophisticated that nothing comparable appeared in human technology for more than 1,000 years after it was made. Where did the knowledge to build it come from, and what was lost in the centuries before it appeared? The ancient Egyptians, the Maya, the Vedic Indians, and the ancient Sumerians all independently possessed extraordinary astronomical knowledge. The Maya calendar, for instance, calculated the length of the solar year to 365.420 days, a figure so accurate it differs from our modern calculation by only 23 seconds per year. They tracked the cycles of Venus with similar precision, knowing its synodic cycle to be 583.92 days compared to our modern calculation of 583.92 days, an exact match. The Vedic tradition of India preserves astronomical records of extraordinary antiquity. Some researchers have used computer programs to work backward from descriptions in Vedic texts and determine what the night sky would have had to look like for those descriptions to be accurate. And the results push back to dates of 7,000, 10,000, even 17,000 years ago. Most remarkable of all is the ancient knowledge of the precession of the equinoxes. Precession is a slow wobble in the Earth's rotational axis that causes the apparent position of the stars to shift over a cycle of approximately 25,920 years. It is an incredibly subtle phenomenon, and modern astronomy credits its discovery to the Greek astronomer Hipparchus in around 127 BCE. But the evidence suggests this knowledge was widespread in the ancient world long before Hipparchus. The ancient Egyptians oriented their temples to stars in ways that only made sense at specific precessional ages. The layout of the Giza Pyramid complex mirrors the pattern of the three stars in Orion's belt as they appeared in the sky around 10,500 BCE, a date that also corresponds to the water erosion on the Sphinx. Understanding precession requires not just observation over thousands of years, but also sophisticated mathematics. If the ancient Egyptians, the Maya, and the Vedic Indians all knew about precession, they either inherited this knowledge from a tradition of extremely long-term observation, or they received it from a source that already had this knowledge, a source that existed long before they did. No discussion of a lost advanced civilization is complete without mentioning Atlantis. The story of Atlantis was first told by the Greek philosopher Plato in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, written around 360 BCE. In them, Plato describes a great island civilization in the Atlantic Ocean, beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the ancient name for the Strait of Gibraltar, a civilization of extraordinary wealth, sophistication, and naval power. According to Plato, Atlantis was destroyed and sank beneath the sea 9,000 years before his own time, which would place its destruction around 11,400 years ago. For centuries, Atlantis was dismissed as philosophical allegory, a fictional cautionary tale about the dangers of hubris and moral corruption. But as more evidence has emerged about catastrophic events at the end of the last ice age, some serious researchers have begun to ask whether Plato was preserving a genuine historical memory, passed down through oral tradition, of a real civilization that was destroyed by the Younger Dryas catastrophe. The timing is strikingly accurate. Plato's Atlantis was destroyed approximately 9,000 years before his time, bringing us to around 11,400 years ago, dangerously close to the 12,900 years ago date of the Younger Dryas impact. Plato specifically describes the destruction as involving earthquakes and floods, which is exactly what a catastrophic comet impact would produce. Plato also describes Atlantis as having a circular city design with concentric rings of land and water, and interestingly, a geological feature in the Sahara Desert called the Rishat structure, also known as the Eye of the Sahara, is a circular formation, roughly 24 kilometers across, that some researchers believe matches Plato's description remarkably closely. The Rishat structure is currently in the middle of a desert, but 11,000 years ago, the Sahara was a lush, green landscape with rivers and lakes. Could this have been the location of Plato's Atlantis, before the desert swallowed it? If a civilization was destroyed by the Younger Dryas catastrophe, some of its people must have survived. And if survivors existed, they would have carried with them the accumulated knowledge of their civilization, their astronomy, their mathematics, their engineering skills, their philosophy, their spirituality. They would have become refugees, scattered across a devastated world, trying to rebuild. This is exactly what many ancient myths describe. Stories of wise teacher figures who arrived after a great catastrophe and helped primitive peoples build civilization appear in cultures across the globe. The ancient Egyptians spoke of the Shemsu Hor, the followers of Horus, who were said to have ruled Egypt in the mythological time before the pharaohs. The Sumerians spoke of the Apkallu, 7 wise beings who emerged from the sea and brought civilization to humanity. The ancient Mesoamericans spoke of Quetzalcoatl in Mexico and Viracocha in Peru, bearded, light-complexioned figures who appeared after a catastrophe and taught the people agriculture, astronomy, and law before disappearing back across the sea. These traditions are strikingly consistent across cultures that had no known contact with each other. The idea that a small group of survivors from an advanced civilization spread across the world, seeding the foundations of the known ancient civilizations, would explain a great deal, including why civilizations like those of ancient Egypt and Sumer appeared so suddenly, so fully formed, with no apparent period of gradual development. It would also explain the remarkable similarities in architectural styles, religious symbols, and cosmological beliefs found in cultures separated by vast oceans. The pyramid form, for instance, appears independently in ancient Egypt, Mesoamerica, Southeast Asia, and China. The same myths of a world flood, a golden age, and the destruction of a previous world appear in hundreds of separate oral traditions. These parallels are too consistent and too specific to be coincidence. They point to a shared source. What is remarkable about our current moment in history is that mainstream science is slowly, reluctantly, beginning to catch up with what independent researchers have been saying for decades. The Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, once dismissed as fringe science, has now been published in peer-reviewed journals and endorsed by over 50 scientists across multiple disciplines. The evidence continues to mount. LiDAR technology, laser imaging that can penetrate thick jungle canopy, has revealed the ruins of enormous lost cities in Guatemala, Cambodia, and other regions that were completely unknown to conventional archaeology. In 2018, LiDAR surveys in Guatemala revealed a network of ancient Maya cities connected by roads, canals, and agricultural systems covering over 2,000 square kilometers, a find that archaeologists described as transforming the entire field. Genetic studies are also yielding surprising results. Analysis of ancient DNA is revealing population movements and interactions that were previously unknown, including evidence of contact between peoples of different continents at dates far earlier than conventionally accepted. The genome of ancient Native Americans, for instance, contains traces of ancestry from populations that appear to have originated in Southeast Asia or even Australia, populations connected by land bridges and coastlines that have been underwater for 10,000 years. And in 2023, researchers studying ancient sediment cores from the Gulf of Mexico found a chemical fingerprint consistent with a massive impact event dating to the beginning of the Younger Dryas, exactly as the impact hypothesis predicts. The scientific evidence is converging from multiple directions, painting a picture of a catastrophic event that reset human history approximately 12,000 years ago. So what does all of this mean? What is the significance of a lost civilization more advanced than us? The implications are profound, and they reach far beyond academic archaeology. First, it means human history is far older and far richer than we have been taught. The story of humanity is not a straight line of progress from primitive cave dwellers to modern technological society. It is a more complex and more cyclical story, one of rises and falls, of golden ages and dark ages, of knowledge gained and knowledge lost. Second, it is a sobering warning about the fragility of civilization. An advanced society, potentially more sophisticated in some ways than our own, was wiped out by a cosmic event that required no human error, no moral failing, no political catastrophe. It was simply struck from above and everything was lost. In a universe where such events happen, no civilization is permanently secure. The ancient builders of Göbekli Tepe apparently understood this and chose to bury their greatest monument to preserve it for whoever came after. Perhaps they knew what was coming. Third, and perhaps most excitingly, we are living in the age when these secrets are finally being uncovered. With new technology, LiDAR, underwater robotics, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, we have more tools than ever before to look beneath the surface of the Earth and beneath the waves of the ocean. The answers are there, waiting to be found. The lost civilization left its fingerprints everywhere. We just need to look. Fourth, the story of a lost, advanced civilization challenges us to reconsider what it means to be advanced. Our civilization prizes technology and economic power. But a civilization that understood the cycles of the cosmos, that could orient buildings to the stars with mathematical precision across thousands of years, that could move stones weighing hundreds of tons and fit them with tolerances of millimeters that civilization understood something about. The universe and humanity's place in it that we may have lost and may still be rediscovering. The truth is that we do not yet know the full story. There are blank chapters in human history that are only beginning to be written. The lost civilization, whatever we choose to call it, wherever it existed, however advanced it truly was, is sending us a message across thousands of years of silence. It is speaking through stone and symbol, through myth and mathematics, through the stars that ancient peoples mapped with such devotion. The message is simple, and it is urgent. We were here. We achieved great things, and we were lost. Do not make the same mistakes. Do not take the miracle of civilization for granted. Look up at the sky. Look down at the earth beneath your feet. And remember that you are part of a story that is far older and far more extraordinary than you have ever been told. If you found this video compelling, share it with someone who needs to hear this story. Subscribe to the channel because we are just getting started. The mysteries of the ancient world run deeper than we can imagine, and there is so much more to uncover. The lost civilization is waiting to be found, and the search begins now.